You're listening to the Cryptid Creature Show. If you're a fan of the show, go and check out our Patreon site. You'll get access to our private Discord server, exclusive merchandise, access to all live streams and Q&As, discounts on merch from the Cryptid Creature store, and get a chance to be a guest host during one of the show's recordings. Just go to patreon.com/Cryptid Creatures. Thank you for listening and supporting the show. This is the Cryptid Creature Show. I am Brian, and with me, as always, my co-host Todd. What's up, buddy?
What's going on with you these days, man? Anything different? Anything
Nope.
new? So tonight's guest, Brian, is Melissa. And Melissa has had a lot of different things going on in her world. She's had entities, ghosts, black shadows, demonic things, UFOs, and hairy man encounters, apparently. So,
Wow.
not sure where she's at, but we'll have to find out what area she's in and see what's going on.
Wild.
So,
Yeah.
are you ready to bring Melissa on then, brother?
Yeah, let's get her. Hello, Melissa.
Hello.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for being on the show with us tonight, Melissa.
And my name is Melissa, actually, guys.
Oh, I'm sorry, Melissa.
Oh,
It's
Melissa.
okay. Yeah, no, it's
Okay.
okay. A lot of people have that mistake, but it's okay. You can call me Mel if you want to.
All right. Well, thanks for being on the show with us tonight, Mel. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we're not sure where you're located at, but we know you've had a lot of stuff going on, according to your emails. I don't know where you want to start. If you want to give us a little bit of background about yourself, a little bio for us and the listeners, maybe, before you get into this stuff.
Of course. So I'm from Southwest Virginia, right out, kind of like, you know where Bristol NASCAR Raceway is? It's about 30 minutes from Bristol, Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol, Virginia, about 2 hours from Roanoke, 2 hours from Knoxville. That very tip end of Virginia is where I'm from.
Okay. Yep.
But I live in Cincinnati, Ohio now. So I come from, my dad is Eastern Band Cherokee from North Carolina. We're Tsul-kalu-a. And then my mom's family are Jewish immigrants from the Middle East that came to work in the coal mines. So a little bit of weird background. But I was raised more Eastern Band Cherokee than anything. And I'm, like I said, I'm from the Appalachian Mountains. I'm in the, I grew up in the Thomas Jefferson George Washington National Forest. So kind of in the middle of nowhere, but
Right.
I can be in a city about an hour. Right now, like I said, I live in Cincinnati and I work for a bank. So that's what I do now.
Okay. So you said you had some things going on when you were really young. Just go ahead and
Yes.
start from the beginning and tell us
Of course,
about what was going on.
I just had a lot. I have had a lot going on. So you may have to I was trying to bullet point what I could talk about because there was a lot. But if you want to ask questions and kind of guide me too, because this is my first podcast and facial podcast. So when I was 3, I started having premonitions and talking with a ghost, and my grandma kind of caught on to it. What happened was she lived off of in a holler, I guess is what you call those. That's what the Southern people call them, hollers. And her house was based off of a cliff, and she had a porch that had built off of the cliff, and underneath you can go underneath the porch. And she would hear me talking to someone, but she would hear me talking and pausing and listening and answering questions and kind of stuff. And she was like, "Who are you talking to?" And I told her Sissy Jane, which is the name I had. And she told me that, "How do you know that name?" And I was like, "This little girl I'm talking to." And I briefly remember what the little girl looked like because I was only 3 when this happened. And she said, "There's no way you would have known that name because prior to me being born, my aunt and uncle had a child that had died at the age of 3. And they called her Sissy Jane because that was her nickname." And I started, when my aunt came to visit, because they didn't live close to us, I was telling her things like, "Sissy Jane told me to tell you that she misses you." Just a lot of things that I shouldn't have knew from that child. And my aunt was like, "Is this a sick joke? Who's making this joke up?" But my grandma was like, "No, this is not a joke. She actually talks to this Sissy Jane." And then my grandpa was going to work one day, and I told him that he should not go to work because he was going to die that day. And my grandma was like, okay, where did you get that from? I was like, I dreamed about it. So in 1983, in June, there was an explosion called the McClure. It's called the McClure explosion. My grandpa worked in the coal mines. He died about a couple hours after I told him that. He blew up in the coal mines. And that's when it started. Yeah, it started from that age to even till recently. I've had some things, and as I got older, I feel like it kind of like trickled down a little bit, but it just depends. Like if I'm depressed or things like that, it gets worse. I don't know how to explain that to you. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but when sometimes I get a little depressed, I see things more and hear things more, and then when I'm like content, I guess you would say. So that started. Well, then my uncle moved to Chicago, and he was about 15, I think, at this time. He was young. I have a young family. My uncle was 8 when I was born. So yeah, I have a really young family. My grandma was 13 when she had her first child. So yeah. And that's my Cherokee family. Long story short, my uncle went to Chicago, and I dreamed that he was going to come home because he had been beaten up, and someone robbed him. And my grandma was like, no, he's in Chicago. She tried to, like, I guess, like, pamper me to, like, where I wouldn't get scared, because my aunt had the same premonitions and stuff too. My dad's sister, she's passed away now, but she would have these things happen to her as well. I do come from like I'm like the 5th generation of like a sightseeing shawl woman, I guess that's what you call it. It kind of skipped generations. It went from her to her daughter, then it skipped her daughter, and my grandma didn't get it, and then my aunt and I got it. So it's kind of weird. It skipped like generations, and it was all women. It wasn't the men. Some of the men can see things, but not like us. But anyways, he came home about a week later, and he was beat up. Someone robbed him and took his money. And my grandma was like, okay, so we need to start like prepping me for the future. Do you know what I mean? Which is, I don't know. So it goes into that. I was a child. We moved into this really weird house. The bathroom was in the basement. I don't know why the bathroom was in the basement. That's the creepiest thing ever. And I was like, why do we have a bathroom in the basement? But I wouldn't go downstairs because I just felt like being watched at all times. And I never saw anything in the basement. But one day I was in my bedroom, and my bedroom was on the 2nd floor. And I look over, and there's a man waving at me in the window. There's no way he's on the 2nd floor. There's just no way he's waving at me in the window. And it was an older gentleman. And I went into my mom, into the kitchen. I said, there's a man staring at me in the window. She was like, you're on the 2nd floor. I was like, no, he's waving at me. So those kind of things happened in that house. Then I kind of will brief you on this. I was 17. That's when this happened. So kind of like all those things happened. I saw things, shadows, and heard noises, and I would hear whispering, kind of like a white noise, if you would say. I don't know if you've heard people say that, like when they're sleeping, they would hear people trying to channel in on them and talk to them while they're sleeping. I just thought that was, I asked my grandma one day, I said, am I crazy? And she was like, crazy people don't know they're crazy. Like if they have schizophrenia or something like that, they don't know that that's something that's being talked to them. They think it's real. And I was like, okay. So my grandma used to keep the light lamp on for nighttime because I felt like hands grabbing me, cold hands grabbing my feet and my legs. I just was very uncomfortable, but I would hear whispering in my ears. Like sometimes she can hear us, and they would like try to talk to me. And my aunt told me to ask them what they wanted, and if it wasn't important, to leave me alone, because she had the same problems. Long story short, that happened like half of my life. And then I moved. No, so let me stop there. Sorry, I'm trying to go in sequence. Like I said, this is the first time I've done this. So I was 17. My grandma, thank you. I'm nervous a little bit, as you can tell. So when I was 17, I was at my grandma's house. I don't know if you know about us, but in the Appalachian, people say don't have your windows open at night. Well, that's a Cherokee thing too. We, having the windows open at night, you're asking for something to come to you. We weren't allowed to be in after. We had to be in after before they got dark. If you heard your name being called, you didn't hear it. If you heard like baby crying, you did not follow it in the woods. You also, I'm trying to think of some of the other. I was told about raven mock, wampus cats, little people, moon people, all the things of the Cherokee culture. But my grandma made it clear that we should close the windows at night. She said she called him the Tsul-kalu-a, which means giant or hairy man in Cherokee. She said he likes to peek in at the windows at night, and he loves women and children, is what I was told. Women and children are in danger from the hairy man. So long story short, I and my cousin Chamberlain, we forgot to close the shades when we went to bed. My grandma had already went to bed. We went in behind her. It was probably like 2:00 in the morning, I want to say, and I heard pecking on the window. And whoever was pecking on the window had to be at least 8 foot to 9 foot tall, because she was up on. She had like it's kind of like, it wasn't 2 stories, but if you know how like people have double wides, they're up on those planks, so they're high off the ground. And I saw a finger in the window that was hairy, and the silhouette had blocked out all the lighting, and I seen little beady eyes. They were like a hazelish color. They weren't like a red or a yellow like some people say. It was like a hazelish blue, and it was pointing for me to come outside. And I was like, so I elbowed my cousin. So I was 17 at the time. She was about 11. I elbowed her and was like, Chamberlain, do you like see that in the window? And she started screaming, what is that? What is that? I was like, shh, be quiet. Of course, the whole house blew up. My grandma got out the bed. My uncle came out with his underwear on and a baseball bat, of course. He's like running. I said, I don't know what it is. It's outside. It's hairy, whatever it is. And he runs outside, and there's nothing there. It's like it vanished. There's no way that thing vanished. It looked so big, because she had because where they live in the holler, they had put one of those light poles. They had to have it specially put there for them to see in the dark going up and down the road and in the yard. So it had to be big, because it silhouetted out the whole window. And it had a hand like a human. I was like, what is that? And she said it could only be the hairy man. She said, I told you guys to close the windows at night. Let me tell you, shivers of my arms, because someone asked me, did I go look for footprints the next day? I was like, I was 17-year-old. You think I was really going to look for footprints? I mean, my uncle didn't see anything. So whatever it is had to be pretty fast and vanish quickly, because he went straight out the door. My grandma was like, I told you guys about that, because you would hear noises at night, like screaming noises in those mountains. So she lived about 30 minutes from Eastern Kentucky, because she was at the tip end of that part of Virginia. I'm a little bit further, because we lived about an hour from each other. You would hear screaming. You would hear babies crying. There is no babies there. Like, we're in the middle of nowhere. There's no children. And she told me that's to lure you in the woods, to come in the woods. That's what they do. They lure women and children. And I don't know why they like women and children. Don't ask me. I do know that she did tell me that there was a story about a Cherokee girl marrying a Bigfoot. Weird. I guess she had children with Bigfoot too. I don't know the name of that girl, but I just know that story behind that there was a Cherokee girl who had relations with a Bigfoot. Really weird. So that happened. But let me give you a little backstory of this. So this is something that happened to me when I was like 28. So when my dad was young, I learned this is generational too. When my dad was young, he was about 8 years old. He was the oldest son to go outside to get coal from the wood pile, like in the coal pile, and he didn't return. And my grandma went looking for him, and she didn't return. And my aunt had to go looking for them. And when she went outside, she saw my dad and my dad and my grandma slanted backwards with a light in the sky holding them down. And then she said all of a sudden the light flew in the sky, and they dropped to the ground, and my grandma came back with burns on her. My dad remembers, I kind of like asked the story from 3 different people at different times so that I could get the correct story, because sometimes people make up stuff. So I was like, who's telling the truth? So told the same story, but all my life, my dad had had issues when he was sleeping. And I would see red, like lasers going through the house. And I don't know where they were coming from. And he would wake up in the middle of the night screaming, get them off of me. And he would have cut marks and stuff on him, like someone just surgically things to him. And he said he remembers that this happened to him more than once when he was a child. But then my aunt said the stuff would happen to her after that incident as well. Well, I looked it up. Apparently, that night that happened, the Kentucky's Air Force was chasing an unknown object right outside of my grandma's area. So that's the thing. But something did happen to me as well on the way home one night. My daughter, she was with my parents for the time. My cousin got the bird flu, and we had to go and get her because she would spend time here in Cincinnati, and then she would also go back and forth to Virginia to spend time with my family. But nobody could, while my parents worked, they couldn't watch her. So we had to go get her. We left, and we got there probably like 2 a.m. in the morning. We slept for about an hour and then left. When I got to the Eastern Kentucky border, it was right outside of Jenkins. My daughter's dad was driving. There was a big ball of light above the tree line, and it was hovering for a minute, and then when we were moving, it started moving with us. And it was above a tree line, so it wasn't like a drone. It was too big to be a drone, and I don't even know if drones were around they might have been around those times, but I doubt anybody was droning at 3 o'clock in the morning. And it just kept on going, and her dad was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Just keep going, because I think it's a UFO. Like, I don't know what to tell you, but I really think it's a UFO." And he was like, he just flew, and he's flying in the mountains. He's not even a person that can drive in these areas. And all of a sudden, when we like got faster, it just went up in the air and zoomed out of the air. I don't know. But my grandma and I talked about it when my dad, that happened to my dad and stuff. And later on, when I learned that story, she said it can be generational, like they will pick up people generational. And I was like, well, I hope I'm not one of those. But then I saw that when I was about 28. Well, stuff started happening after that. So that happened. Then let me go back a little bit because I kind of got ahead of myself. When I moved to Cincinnati, I moved to Newport, Kentucky, which is right across the bridge, if you guys know anything about this area. I moved into an old Victorian house. It was a 3-story. They took the house and they broke it down to apartments. I lived on the top floor, and there was people below me. And when I moved in, I should have probably looked at the place before I moved in, because usually I can get a sense of something's going on in there. But at the time, I didn't have time. I had just moved here when I was like 19, needed a place to live. My aunt had already lived in Cincinnati, so she didn't have room for me. So I moved into this apartment, and that's when it started. I've never had sleep paralysis ever in my entire life. I had sleep paralysis every night for 3 years living in that apartment. But I wasn't just I was seeing things too and hearing things. But the sleep paralysis started first, and I would see a black shadow hovering over me and holding me down. I was awake. Nothing was going on. I called my dad's sister. She said, that's a scientific word for ghosts holding you down. They say it's sleep paralysis. This is something holding you down. And she's like, you've never had this before, and you've seen these things all your life. And I was like, yes. So, but this was different. It was demonic. I started getting that. I was not sleeping. I started getting very sick. I lost like 30 pounds. I was in the shower one day, and I heard it sounded like someone was like boom, boom, like someone got shot. And then I heard thump, 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 because it sounded like they was pulling a body down the steps. And I come out of the shower, looking, what is going on? Is somebody in my house? No one there. So I was like, okay, what is going on here? Then I got a cat. Well, that cat was constantly staring at the walls, constantly just looking at things. And one day the cat was getting on my nerves, because little kittens, they need attention. I locked him out of the bedroom. I come hearing screaming, noise, stuff being knocked over. I come out of that bedroom, and there was a crow in our house chasing that cat around. How did a crow get in? I have 2 windows in the whole entire apartment. How did a crow get into the house? There's no holes. There's nothing. I had to open the windows and shoo the crow out. Like, I think I took a broom to him. I can't remember. I think it was a broom. He was chasing that cat. And I was like, that is really strange. Like, a crow, which means significant things to us in our culture, of course. And I was just like, that's awkward.
K-pop Demon Hunters Haja Boys breakfast meal and Huntrix meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
Your little one grew 3 inches overnight. Adorable. Also, expensive. Sell their pint-sized pieces on Depop and list them in minutes with no selling fees. Because somewhere, a dad refuses to pay full price for the clothes his kids will outgrow tomorrow. And he's ready to buy your son's entire wardrobe right now. Consider your future growth spurt budget secured. Start selling on Depop, where taste recognizes taste. Payment processing fees and boosting fees still apply. See website for details.
Well, then one day I was in the living room and I was on the phone with my dad, and we have those old-timey lights. You know how in the old hotels, the lights you have to click like this? Well, that house was so old, they had those clicking lights. I had sitting in the living room and I saw a shadow walk past the light, and it blocked out the light. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, me being who I am, I'm not scared at this point, but I was just like, what is going on? I walked into my kitchen and walked back, and there was a black shadow with red eyes standing in my bedroom. That same shadow that held me down every night for 3 years. Not just that. One day I was trying to go to work, and I felt someone shove me down the steps. And I had to go to the hospital because I almost broke my neck to make sure I was okay. Whatever it was, shoved me down the steps. Then so let me think I'm trying to think of what else happened there. Just a lot of things. So my aunt said, we can go to the police department and see if anything happened to that home. They have records. Well, apparently there was a murder there back in the 1800s, and it was a brothel at one time. Makes sense. The brothel would have been downstairs, I assume, and then upstairs would have been where they had their lady friends hang out. He had been murdered over a female lady friend. And 2 men had murdered him and hid his body down in one of the abandoned houses that would have been down the street. So they didn't find this guy. So what I'm thinking is he was mad at the world. Maybe he became, I don't know if he became demonic or he was already evil before he died. But whatever it was attacking me. So when I moved out, I asked my landlord, do you have any more apartments that you can move me to, because I'm being tortured here. And he's like, what's going on? And he was like, I can put up cameras. I said, can you put up cameras for ghosts? Because this is what's going on. He didn't even know what to say when I told him there was ghost activity there. He was like, well, the house is a couple 100 years old. I expect it. But like, he had never heard anybody tell him that. And I said, well, maybe nobody was sensitive that lived there. You know what I mean? So that was pretty demonic, like pushing me down the steps, holding me down. I feel like a black shadow with red eyes. To me, that's demonic. So then I moved to another apartment. There was a ghost there too, but he was not bad. I would see him walk through my apartment and go down the steps. I found out that a young boy had killed himself there, overdosed on drugs. So I think it was him because it looked like a young guy, but I never had any problems there at that other house. Like, he just left me alone. Then fast forward. Okay. Let me go into this one. So I moved again, but this time I moved in another part of Kentucky. This is a little bit strange. So my daughter's father is from Central Africa. They do a lot of voodoo and stuff there. And there was some things going on that I didn't know about, like family members that were trying to do, I guess, voodoo on me. And I caught on to it because I was having dreams. And the dreams I was having was like these people in white clothes They were killing chickens. They were killing goats and things. And the woman was talking to me in like a Malian language, like a foreign African language. But then it started going into my daughter. Like my daughter was only 3 months old, and I would have her laying next to me in like the crib so I could feel her, because I was like one of those moms that wanted to make sure my hands touching her to make sure she's okay all night. And I woke up in the middle of the night and she was gone. And I freaked out, like, where's my daughter? And I jump up, turn the light on. Her dad was asleep. She's on the floor, sitting upright, like a grown person talking to someone on the ceiling. And I'm like, okay. And she was talking. So I was like, okay, this is weird. Well, then maybe a couple weeks later, she's in the floor. And you know those little things that you can put around a kid that teaches them how to sit up? She's 3 months old. She said to her dad, come sit by mama. She talked but the voice that came out of her mouth was not a person like her. It was a grown woman with a foreign language. Come sit by mama. And he looked at me like, that is not good. I said, what do you mean that's not good? That is your language. Do you guys have any questions so far? Okay, yeah.
Well, I've got a lot, but you just keep going. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'll keep going. There's a lot.
We'll do this just after.
If you've got more,
Okay.
go ahead. You're doing great.
Yeah, no, I have more.
You're doing great.
So he looked at me and he goes, when a child talks like that, something is going on. I told him, I was like, someone's doing voodoo on me. I know that for a fact because I told him I had seen things in my sleep. I've heard the voices. I was like, he already knew I was sensitive, but then we started seeing shadows in our house. Then my dad came to visit. Well, my dad, like I said, he saw like the UFO stuff, but he had never like dealt with ghosts. He got held down in his sleep. He has sleep paralysis for the first time in his entire life. And he was like, what is going on in this house? And I was like, I don't know, but I think someone's doing voodoo on me. So we had to contact some of my family members to try to reverse it in our culture, because we have ways of doing that too. And my aunt had got in contact with a cousin that lives on the roads and tried to reverse it. It finally went away, but I find out that it's one of his family members that was doing that to me. Because what happened was he was supposed to marry a woman over there. Culturally, he was supposed to marry like his cousin. And I guess that didn't happen. And he had children over here with other women, he had one with another girl before me, and they didn't like that. So I don't know what they were thoughts and how they even got they probably got a picture of me or something. I don't know what they got, but that was creepy, especially when my 3-month-old is talking with someone else's voice. And she can see things too. So it's kind of went on to her a little bit. She kind of gets scared about it. I think she doesn't like to hear about it, but she does see things. So then I moved to another apartment. Me and him are not together. I moved away. When I got this other apartment, it was shadow figure after shadow figure. I was like, okay, I've dealt with shadow figures, but I did not see that many of my last apartment. And I want to say that it was the roommate I lived with too. She was very negative. She was always a negative person. I think she had some mental disorder too. I want to say she did. But I would see them in her room more than anywhere else. But then they're like tricksters. They were hiding stuff from me. I find my keys in the refrigerator, weird stuff. And I'm like, what? Okay. One day, my boyfriend at the time, he kept calling me, where's my wallet? Where's my wallet? And I was like, what do you mean, where's your wallet? He said, I've tore this house apart and cannot find my wallet. I got home and the wallet was laying right in the middle of the floor. It had just been sit there. Hey, I'm here. There's your wallet. And I called him. I was like, come in the house. Your wallet is laying right there. He goes, it's impossible. I could see the couch torn up, everything. He goes, I've been in this house all day looking for my wallet, and then it appears when I got home. Hey, you got your wallet back, kind of thing. Then I lived downstairs. There was a lot of guys from Saudi Arabia that lived in my building, and I was friends with them. So I went downstairs, and one of the Saudi Arabian guys goes, who did you bring with you? And I was like, what are you talking about? There's nobody with me. He goes, you brought a shadow with you. I watched him walk behind you. Then he had to play the Quran, and he opened up the windows. That's what they do. They open the windows, turn off the the doors open and he played the Quran he called it a Jinn. They call it Jinn. He goes, the Jinn followed you. And I was like, that Jinn has been with me for years. Like, if he's there, he's there. He goes, Jinn can fall in love with females. And I was like, and he's like, how long has it been following you? I was like, since I was a kid, I've seen these things. He goes, it must be loving. It must be in love with you because they will fall in love with a female that they like. I said, okay, I'm good. Thank you for telling me that. I said, I think it's just because who I am. And like I said, all these things have happened to me all my life. And there's probably more I hadn't even told you because I can't remember half of the stuff. But another thing, that apartment, I would be like 2-ish in the morning. I hear like a mechanical buzzing noise outside of my window. And I was like, what is that? So I'd get up and look, and I didn't see anything. But then one night I woke up because I heard the noise, and there was 3 beings under at the end of my bed. Little beings at the end of my bed staring at me. And I'm like, okay. Well, about that time, some medical things started happening with me. And me and my friend started telling me, she goes, I believe in these things too, because I was talking to her about it. I had some female problems going on that I never had before. And she was like, that if you've been seeing these things, she goes, they like to do experiments on females, and that's when their reproductive system starts to mess up. That was what was going on with me, and I had never in my life had that issue. And but I would see them more frequently. And then like one night I came out, it was like I had to be at inventory at work, so I was like leaving early in the morning, and I wouldn't be back at late. I saw like above me a cloud, but you can tell it was hiding something. It was a machinery looking thing underneath it. Like I can definitely see the outlines of metal and lights. So it was like hiding itself. But the neighbor next door saw the same thing because they were looking, because they were going to Kroger, I guess, because he had his Kroger costume, like outfit on, and he was looking up too. And I'm like, yeah, I just was like, I got in the car and I left because I'm like, okay, that's so weird. But then I try to not drive through Eastern Kentucky anymore late at night, because the last time I had done it, I saw lights again. And I'm like, okay, this area, there's nothing there, so it would be easy for them to just fly up in the air. Now where I live behind the woods. So a couple of things have happened to me. I found I had a blood disorder and I have diabetes. I've been a little depressed about it. Yeah, the blood disorder and the diabetes came from my dad. I just found out, and I kind of been depressed. Well, I moved here. I already knew something was going on with these woods because I can feel it in my bones. And I'm just like, okay. Long story short, I have found footprints behind my house. And I'm talking about not human footprints. It is big, and it looks like a toes. I have a picture of it, actually. It looks like toes, and it was too big to be a human. And what human in the middle of the winter was going around walking barefoot in the woods? I hear rocks being thrown at my window now that where I live. But then my boyfriend and I was sleeping one night, and we left the windows open, and he goes, what is that? We felt a shadow come through the window, flow in our living room, and went out the other window like a black shadow. He saw it, and he's from Nicaragua, so he kind of like, they have duendes and stuff, but he has never seen anything in his life until now. He was like, what was that? And I was like, it was a black shadow. And it just flew through the window and went out the other window. And he was like, that is so weird. But it came from these woods, and these woods feel like, I don't know how to explain it, but when I'm in a place where it feels ancient, I can feel it. And this feels old. These woods feel old to me. But the rocks being thrown in my window is like every other night. And one night I woke up, I heard something in my head tell me not to look out the window at all. I'm like, okay, when something tells me not to look out the window, I'm not looking out the window at all, because it was like a mind speak. Don't look out the window. Whatever it was, I don't want to know because I'm cool. I've seen whatever I needed to see. But another thing too, I forgot to say this. When I feel like something negative is in those woods or anywhere, and I feel like I'm going to puke, I feel like I'm going to vomit, It's like the energy they give me, because that happened to me, and we were next to mounds here where we live, and I was in the woods, and I felt like I was going to vomit, and I told my friend, we have to go. Something is here. We have to go now. And when I left the area, I was fine. And that's always been like, even seeing ghosts, I feel that way. Like I feel sick to my stomach, like I'm going to vomit. Let's see, what else? I'm trying to think. Oh, now that I've gotten depressed, I'm starting to hear the voices again. The other day I heard she can hear us like they did when I was little. And I heard a man go, miss, excuse me. And I said, leave me alone. I'm trying to sleep. And I just cut him off right there, because I don't know what he wanted. I don't know where he came from. But it was like a voice of like a Southern man, like, excuse me, miss. You know how they talk? That's the voice I heard out of this guy. And I was like, I don't want it. And I've already seen too many things. Sorry, I'm not going in sequence. I'm just trying to think of what I've seen. I took my daughter, so outside of where my mom lives, her boyfriend lives about an hour and a half away. She lives with my mom because my dad died from COVID a couple years ago, and my mom wasn't doing very well, so my daughter went to live with her. And she met this boy who lives in the middle of nowhere. When I say mountains, he lives in the mountains. Coming back from a dance, my mom and I saw, we want to say it was a rake. And my mom saw it, and she was like, what is that? It was white. It was crouched down. It was in the tree line. Like I tell you, we're in the middle of nowhere. She was like, what is that? And she goes, is that a rock? And I was like, a rock does not move, and that is white. And it looked like it didn't have a face. Like his eyes were like not like sunken in, and there was no mouth. And she was like, keep going. And I was like, I'm pretty sure you just saw a rake too. And she's kind of weary about seeing those things, because she told me she saw a ghost before, but it was when she started working at the school where my dad worked at. And she saw a ghost walk from the library to the other side of the wall. And it was an old looking teacher with her bun in her hair and stuff. And she walked through the wall, looked at my mom, and just kept on going. My mom said after that, I did not work by myself at night. Because apparently the school that my parents worked at, because my dad was the maintenance man and my mom worked at night for him, was behind one of our burial grounds, a Cherokee burial ground. And the school had an exorcism done on it. Probably a couple years ago. Teachers were seeing things. So yeah, I saw, I guess, a rake too. My mom was like freaked out. She just keep on going. I don't want to see that again. But it was moving, and she was like, is there such thing as a white rock? And I said, yeah, but I don't think there's a white rock at the tree line. Just FYI. I'm trying to think. Okay, now you guys can ask me whatever you want.
So go back to the Tsul-kalu-a.
Tsul-kalu-a.
How do you spell that?
I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing it right. I don't speak a lot of Cherokee. I know how to say my name, Osio Melissa Hinashia, a couple things. But
do you know how they spell that though?
Tsula. Wait a minute. Tsukalu. I think is how you spell it.
Tsul-kalu.
It means slant-eyed giant.
Okay.
I want to say that I'm spelling it.
And the Jinn. The Jinn is the Jinn. Is that how they spell the Jinn?
Jinn.
Jinn. Okay.
Jinn. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
But Tsul-kalu-a, I want to say it's Tsulkala or something like that. Don't quote me on. You might be able to look it up.
I'll look it up.
Put in slant-eyed giants.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So
or hairy man for Cherokee.
I got it. I looked it up.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So, do you think this is all because of the Appalachian Mountains that you've experienced all this stuff?
I want to say, personally, I know that I want to say it's part of my culture too. I feel like a lot of natives have this another spiritual world to them that other people do not. I want to say that's part of it. I do, like I said, I do come from sightseeing women. My fourth great grandma was known as like, not a witch, but a shawl woman. Same thing, I guess you would call it. She would be able to heal people and things like that. And people would come all over just to visit her to heal their kids for things. I do know that she, apparently my aunt, one of my great aunts, got caught on fire and had third-degree burns. And she wrapped her in a blanket and said some things, and her burns went away. I know that my grandma told me that my aunt didn't like talking about it because she said that she felt like she did black magic, but I don't know if she was doing black magic or not. I just know that she was known for that stuff. I want to say it's part of the culture, but Appalachian Mountains are pretty scary. At nighttime, you hear things, you're like, what is that? Like, what can that be? Like babies crying and screaming. One of my uncles, he lived far in the mountains. He lived in a dirt floor house. They don't have those anymore, but he lived in a house like that, and you had to like drive, then park your car and walk deep in the mountains. And he told my dad one time, he goes, "You guys need to leave before it gets dark because the hairy man will come out." And my dad, my dad's like, "I've never seen a hairy man. You guys still believe in that stuff?" And my uncle was like, "It kills our baby calf sometimes. It takes a calf when it wants to, like a baby cow." And he was like, it does come out at night and it will come close to the house. So I've heard stories from other family members about it. So, but I think it's part of the Appalachian Mountains and maybe part of being native that we're like intertwined with it. Maybe. I don't know. I've heard other natives say that they have the same things. You know what I mean? Like, you can see stuff and hear stuff. And
yeah, there's just a lot of stuff going on in the Appalachian Mountains, Appalachian Trail. I think there's a lot of Indian burial grounds there. A lot of Civil War burial grounds there, which I kind of keep thinking, the more we hear about these things and these dogmen and these other creatures popping up is due to a lot of these ancient burial grounds.
I do not want to see a dog man.
There's something there, but
I'm good with the dog man. I'm sorry, but I'm good.
Me either.
I
Me
mean,
too.
Bigfoot didn't scare me as
I
much.
don't want to see one of those either.
No, because my grandma told me that the dog man, which I don't know, there was another word she used, and I don't remember that word. The dog man was actually a shapeshifter to her, like kind of like a skinwalker. And I know we're not supposed to say that word, but skinwalker. But the thing is, it's a person who was like our spiritual guide is a wolf. Like my spiritual guide is a wolf. Our spiritual guides, if you turn into your spiritual guide, you have become evil, is the way I was told. Me personally, yes, that's folklore for us, but I think a dog man is an ancient human or ancient humanoid race. I do, because you hear people talk about it in like France, they have the dog people. It's in the Egyptian pharaohs. There was another place that had dog people. Like, I think they've trickled down to where nobody saw them as much as Bigfoot, but they're now starting to come out more, I believe.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You know those friends who support your preference for podcasts over music on road trips? That's the energy State Farm brings to insurance. With over 19,000 local agents, they help you find the coverage that fits your needs, so you can spend less time worrying about insurance and more time enjoying the ride. Download the State Farm app or go online at statefarm.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Pros, just because something on the job runs out doesn't mean you have to. Order it on the Lowe's app. My Lowe's Pro Rewards members get free same-day delivery on eligible orders over $25. Get the fasteners, hardware, or tools you need to keep the job moving. Order by 2 p.m. and get eligible in-stock items delivered right to your job site by 8 p.m. Members get more at Lowe's. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Subject to availability. Restrictions and terms at lowes.com/shipping terms. Subject to change.
What do you think about Bigfoot? What do you think those creatures are? And do you remember the face of the creature that you saw gesturing you?
I can only see its eyes because it was hair on its face. Like, it was hairy right in here, but it wasn't up in the window like this. You know what I mean? It was like further away, but the finger was humanoid, and it had hair on the finger, and the finger was just like a normal human with a big hand. And I can just remember the beady eyes on it. Like, it was like, the eyes were like, I guess kind of, maybe they were like squinching or something. But the color was not red or what I've heard other people say. It was like a hazelish blue. And this thing had to be huge. Like I said, it silhouetted the whole window. There's no way there's something that big, a human especially. And it had to be at least 8 foot or taller to do that. Because my grandma's was on those blogs where if I went to the window, I couldn't even, like at the time, I couldn't even touch the top of the window with going like this. So whatever was big, and it was able to just disappear like it was nothing. which was weird too. I mean, to me, I didn't see like any facial features, and I wish I had, honestly, because honestly, I want to see one for real, like again, but I want to see one like everything about it. But I think it's because my grandma said they've been here longer than before we were here. They've been here longer than us. They actually would intermingle with us, and until they were taking the women and children, and they told them, you have to, like, basically our treaty was, you have to stay here and we have to be here. We're going to stop taking our women and children. I don't know what they were doing with women. Like I said, they married one, but what were they doing with the kids? That weirds me out. Maybe there was rogue ones that were bad, because I honestly think there's good and bad ones, just like any animal, any human.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, because there's psychotic humans, and I'm sure there's a psychotic Bigfoot out there.
Yeah, well, we've heard that they used to say about the Indians would say back in the day they would steal their women and children, you know.
My grandma told me that too. That's why she didn't want us out after dark. That's why if we heard her name being called in the woods, or if we hear babies crying, not to follow it, because you know that's your instinct to go like, what is that noise? And
yeah, that was one thing I was going to touch on when you said the baby crying thing. That creeps me out. And for a creature to mimic a baby to lure a woman, because that's your first instinct as a woman or as a person.
Yeah.
You hear a baby crying in the woods, you're going to run up and be like, "What's going on? What is this?"
And
what are they doing that for? You know, what are they doing that? Are they going to try to grab you? Are they trying to see if they can lure you in? What is the purpose behind that? That's creepy, first of all.
Yeah, and it was not a bobcat, because I've heard bobcats cry. That was a totally different noise. And the screaming, it was like you could hear screeching, screaming, and there's no way a human has the voice capacity to do that. And I would be like, what is that? And she'd like, get in the house. Because she would definitely be like, it's Tsul-kalu-a, or like I said, I might be pronouncing it a little weird because I haven't heard her talk. She died when I was younger. But she was like, just get in the house. She knew what it was. She had seen little people. She had talked about fairies and little people. She did tell me that, I don't know if you know about Eastern Band Cherokee, we hid in the mountains away from the Trail of Tears and Andrew Jackson. She told me the Moon-eyed people saved us from that they hid us in the rocks of the mountains away from the Andrew Jackson. And I don't know if you've heard of the Moon-eyed people, but
yeah, we've heard about them before. Yeah.
She said that they hid us in the rocks and that they kept us from getting revealed. That's what she was told. I've heard. She told me about the Wampus Cat, Spearfinger. I'm sure you've heard of all these. Raven Mocks. She told me there's 3 different types of little people. There's good ones, there's bad ones, and there's tricksters. So there's 3 different kinds. And then she told me that the bad ones, you have to watch out for them, because those are the ones that will kill you and take you. Like, they're kind of, I guess, how people call them the duendes, but we just call them little people. I'm trying to think of anything else, but yeah, I don't, like I said, she just told me that make sure that, because you get your spiritual guide, you only get it 2 ways. One, you get it, you'll go into one of those things where you not meditate, but where you sweat like a sweat lodge, and you sweat it out and you hallucinate, and that's when it comes to you. Or, oh no, sorry, there's 3 ways. It comes to you when you're little, it comes to you in sweat lodge, or it comes to you when you're a little bit older and you will come in contact with whatever your spiritual guide is. And I came in contact with a wolf when I was outside one day. And it didn't bother me. It just looked me in the eyes, sit there for a couple minutes, and walked off. And I called my grandma like, hey, pretty sure I found my spiritual guide. Then that's when she told me that if you shapeshift is when it becomes bad. Yeah. So she said the shapeshifting is something you don't want to do, because we can shapeshift from our spiritual guide to whatever it is. But that's when she thought what Dogman really was. But she didn't talk about werewolves or Dogman as much, because I feel like it was more like a skinwalker to us.
Yeah, a different name for, what do they say? A dog for every town or whatever. Or what's the phrase?
I've heard of what you're talking about, but I don't know what the phrase for it.
Mel, it was really cool having you on the show tonight and talking about all this stuff. My gosh, you gave me chills talking about the ghosts. First of all,
I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry.
Okay. No, we love it.
I do get that.
Yeah, we love this stuff.
Talking about that stuff. So, and then the Tsul-kalu-a and the Jinn. I mean, those are really interesting. We've heard about the Jinn before, but we've never really talked too much about it. That crazy entity. Mm-hmm. But do you consider yourself lucky or unlucky to be where you're at and what you've experienced?
Well, with the premonition things, just as recently, I knew I was going to get hit by somebody, and I knew, this is the last thing that would have happened to me. I knew something was going to happen to me. I just didn't know when and where, and I got hit by a drunk driver. And that happened to me, and I just, that day when I woke up, I was like, something's going to happen to me. I just don't know when and where. Should I stay home? But then you can't just live off of that. You know what I mean? So I got in the car, and I was driving to Virginia, and I had just gotten across the border, stopped at a red light, and something told me to look behind me, and there was a guy coming off the exit ramp. He flipped, hit me sideways, then hit the girl. I hit the girl in front of me, but something told me to maneuver my car over to the left a little bit before, and then I looked behind me, and the police officer told me if I hadn't maneuvered my car a little bit, we both would have been dead, because he would have landed on us. But he was in drugs and a drunk driver. Yes, that happened to me, but I felt it. Then I knew that when my uncle was going to die, I knew when my grandma was going to die, and my mom would call me the next day. And I was like, yep, so-and-so died. I saw him in my dreams. Like, that's happened to me a lot, actually. And in our culture, too, I don't know if you know that if you get visited by someone who has died, they're actually talking to you and they're visiting you. Since my dad has passed away, I get visited from him at least once every other week. He does talk to me and tells me things, and it's just weird. But it's always been in my dreams, or I get a bad feeling. So it still continues to this day. And now that if I feel that gut feeling, I try to stay home if I can. But who knows? It could be like, what is that? What's that movie called where stuff can happen to you in your house too? What was that called?
Yeah, you can't let your premonitions
Final
guide your life.
Destination.
Final Destination, yeah.
Final Destination, yeah.
Because
I was like, is it going to happen at home?
Yeah. No, I thought that stuff too. Stuff pops in my head, and I'm like, oh no, yeah. But it's true about that thing. When the more you think about things, the more you can make them happen. Depending on what they are. Now, I can sit there and think, I want to be a millionaire all day, every day, and it's not going to happen. But, if something pops in your head, something weird pops in your head, and you get this premonition, like you said, about, car accident, be careful where you're driving, or something like that. Where does that come from? But it's like something's trying to tell you something.
Something's telling me something, exactly. And then, like I said, the depression thing, which I have to get out of my funk, because like I said, I've been sick and I'm just like, okay, what's going on? But when I'm like that, more things happen to me. It just happens even more. And I think it's because I'm vulnerable at the time. I've always had things happen, but it gets worse when I'm like that. So I kind of, like you said, I need to feel better and not think about those things.
That's right.
Just got to think happy thoughts. That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Just be positive as much as
I know
you
it's tough,
can.
but try to be positive. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying. I've been getting out of it. I have to, because I'm like, you get hit once with 2 autoimmune diseases. That's like a double whammy. Like, come on, guys.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm.
And it really put me down. But I'm like, okay, I got to get back up, like you said. So
that's right.
Hopefully they'll stop talking to me now. I don't care, but I don't know what they want. And I can't really help them. So I don't. My aunt said you probably should get entwined with it and try to see what they need. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go that far. I'm good.
Yeah, that's your choice.
No,
yeah.
help one spirit. You got to help them all.
Yeah, there you go.
I know, and I don't really want to do that, guys. I mean, if I see Bigfoot, that's cool. I want to see him again. But other than that, I'm good.
Did you ever seen Sixth Sense? I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to.
I don't want to be that guy. Yeah.
Well, Mel, thanks again for being here with us tonight. It was really fun talking to you.
Yeah, it was. That was fun. Thank you.
You're welcome, guys,
We
and I will be
appreciate
listening to you.
You did great
I
on your
listen to
first
you guys every day.
podcast. Well, we
you
thank
did.
you for
You did
that.
a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I was a little nervous because I just was like, man, I don't know. I've never been on camera and talked with someone. I did get on the Bigfoot Society once with him, but I wasn't on camera, and it kind of made me nervous.
No, you're doing great. You're doing great. This
No,
will be
you
a
did
good
good.
show.
Yeah. Good job.
Okay, well, cool.
Thanks again.
I'm glad.
Anything else happens, reach out to us. Let us know what's going on.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah,
Stay,
I'll let you
stay
know
in
if I
touch.
see
Let us know.
more stuff. If I see Bigfoot, you're the first one I'll contact.
Oh, please do.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All
Hopefully one day I'll see him outside. Bye, guys. Enjoy your night.
See you, Mel. You too.
All right, thanks, Mel.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, it's cool having Mel on the show, man. It was great talking.
Yeah,
to
it
her.
was. Holy smokes.
Got a lot going on in the Appalachian
Talk about some
Mountains.
stuff. Jeez.
Tsul-kalu-a and the Jinn. We've heard about the Jinn before. What a crazy, weird.
We have. Mm-hmm.
That's more like Middle
Not
Eastern.
a good thing.
It's funny because that's more Middle Eastern kind of thing, and she said that she's got.
Well,
did she not say that
she
she's
said
Middle
those
Eastern?
guys were
Yeah.
Saudi Arabian.
Strange stuff going on there, but yeah, great having her on and talking about that kind of stuff. A little bit different stuff too, and I like that, as you say. We like that stuff.
Yeah,
so.
me too. We love that. Yeah.
Listeners, thank you guys as always so much. We appreciate you guys. We keep growing.
Yeah, we do.
Every week. And if you have some friends that want to check us out, share our podcast with them and help us out. Check out our Patreon, and you can get our episodes early and ad-free if you'd like to do that, and other
That's right.
content as well. So, Brian, my friend, it was cool hanging out with you tonight, brother.
Always fun, brother. Always learning.
All right. I will talk to you next episode. What do you say?
Yep. See ya.